You are listening to Draw 4 Podcast. Good tidings, and thanks for joining us. I am Joseph Dunlap, moderator for this episode, executive producer of Player 4 Podcast and Draw 4 Podcast, and featured writer for ManaLeak.com.
I'm TJ Love. I'm just a Tarleton student in Stephenville, Texas. I play competitive Magic pretty much every week and go to big tournaments when I can. Yeah.
Poor college student. And I teach poor college students.
Yep, he knows me. He knows me too well.
Yeah, so it's just the two of us because scheduling is horrible this week for some reason. It's just everything the cosmos wanted the two of us to record this episode together, so we're doing it.
Yes.
But this is an analysis of the standard metagame in the weeks following Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar. And I first compiled the metagame from MTG Goldfish. Now, the reason I chose that rather than MTG Top 8 is just because Top 8 tends to have a lot of Magic the Gathering Online or Modo daily events. And so it kind of skews things towards decks that people are testing online. So I went with MTG Goldfish on this. Now, I recently moved. If you've listened to the most recent episode of Player 4 Podcast, you know that I've been moving and I've had trouble with internet, and that's why we had to postpone recording episode 3. So when I first made my notes for this episode, the percentiles were drastically different than they are currently for the metagame. For example, in the past few weeks, Abzan Aggro raised from 15% to 19% of the metagame, and that deck is primarily Hangerback Walker, Gideon, Warden of the First Tree, Den Protector, Onofenza, and Siege Rhino. Nobody plays Siege Rhino, right?
No, definitely not. It's just a terrible card.
No, that card's never seen play.
No, I think Modern plays something like him, but you know.
Yeah, it's something like Siege Rhino Goyf.
Yeah, something like that. Sounds correct.
And then in the past few weeks, Dark Jeskai fell from 18% of the meta to just 10%. In the meantime, Atarka Red went up from 8% to 10%. Dark Jeskai is Hangerback Walker, sounds familiar. And Gideon, sounds familiar, Dragon Master Outcast, Jace, and Mantis Rider. So for a while, Mantis Rider was bigger than Siege Rhino, which hadn't happened since last year following Pro Tour Khans of Tarkir.
Right. No, Mantis Rider is actually just, honestly, I'm surprised that he's not taking over even more of the format. He's so good about requiring an answer. I think that's probably my favorite part about him, is that he's just, how demanding he is to be answered is just super high. Whereas Rhino, yeah, he comes in, he does the gain drain effect, which, you know, I'm sure I don't have to explain to any person listening to this podcast. But Mantis Rider, like, everyone knows what he does as well. And, I mean, 3/3 flying, haste, vigilance, someone told me that he was significantly worse because Stoke the Flames is no longer in standard. But, I mean, I can't even agree with that. When one of the main couple of reasons you play Jeskai is to play Mantis Rider, he's just too good. Because especially since all the instant speed removal is mostly gone now. I think you still have like Utter End and Murder's Cut, but
yeah, we're pretty low on removal right now.
Who really wants to delve their Tasigur mana to kill a Mantis Rider now?
To kill a 3/3.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You're exactly right that yes, with Rhino it's drain 3, deal 3. Gain 3, lose 3. But Mantis Rider is 3 as well on the turn that you drop it, but it also flies.
Yeah.
So in some ways it's more relevant after it hits the battlefield than a 4/5 with Trample, if you're really concerned with just taking down those life totals. That's why Siege Rhino has been so big in Abzan Control, whereas when you're playing Abzan Aggro, it's like, well, I gotta play it, because if I don't, I'll lose.
What I think is kind of my favorite part about him is right now, just in terms of meta currently, a lot of the decks playing white have been running main and sideboard Valor Stance, and he dodges that. So, I mean, let that soak in.
Valor Stance is just broken.
No, I took Abzan Red to an IQ last Sunday, and I can't tell you how many people were playing mainboard Valor Stance, and I was like, yeah, Rhino's dead. Yeah, Tasker's dead.
Well, with two modes that are relevant, a main deck Valor Stance is always relevant.
Right.
You want to keep your creatures alive? Go ahead. You want to kill a Siege Rhino? Go ahead. I mean, choose your own adventure.
Right.
So Atarka Red raised from 8% to 10%. That's, of course, Monastery Swiftspear, Zergo Bellstriker, Abbot of Carol Keep, and then the combo of Tamir, Battle Rage, and Become Immense. Has that happened to you any time recently, TJ?
I don't want to talk about it. No, we were at the IQ in Dallas last Sunday, and it was 8 rounds of standard. I was 6-0 at the time. And primarily because I was playing Abzan Red, and Crackling Doom just seems to be good when I play Esper Dragons rounds 1, 2, and 3 in a row. And I was like, whoa, okay.
What you mean to say is Crackling Doom is always good.
Oh yeah, the card's insane. Like I knew it was good, but when you actually play with it, you're just like, wow, that card is too good. But anyway, no, like I felt like I had a really good matchup. Like post board, I had like 3 Surge of Righteousness, and I had just plenty of early game stuff to combat Atarka Red. But I would have turns where I'd leave up Crackling Doom, and then I would kill like a Swiftspear or something. I can't remember. I'd play my next turn. I would just play Siege Rhino and say pass. So that's all I'd have. I'd have to tap out to play Siege Rhino, but who in Standard has never done that? But what was really frustrating is that he had 2 goblins on the field, and I was at like 15 or something. I would say 15. So it was about turn 4. He would swing with 2 goblins, and I'd say, sure, I'll block 1 and take 1, and he'd be like, no, here's Titan Strength into Become Immense into Battle Rage, and you're dead. And, like, all I could do was stare at my hand and my tapped mana base and was like, I'm about to lose right now, and this is happening.
Yeah.
And what was really, really bad is that round 7 that happened, and the exact same thing happened round 8. Like, I lost both my games out of my 8 rounds. Both of my losses were to 1/1 goblin, so I don't know. I feel pretty questionable as to how much I really like that deck right now.
Well, Atarka Red is pretty good. I mean, it spread like wildfire through the Pro Tour.
Yeah, well, this is another question, though. When is Mono Red ever not going to be a deck?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for that. So I guess we should just move on to the rest of the decks in the metagame, since it's obvious Red is here to stay.
Yeah.
So, out of nowhere, Esper Tokens is at 7% of the meta. And I was not aware this was a deck until I saw it on Goldfish.
Well, what people really don't understand is how good... Well, okay, I have to say this. I believe that Esper has the best 3-color mana base in the entire format right now. Because it's 2 fetchable lands right now, and those colors both have blue in them. And what's really important about that is that the Esper list that's running the Knight of the White Orchid, what a lot of people do not remember if they were not Alara players, like, myself, because I took a break at the time, they do not remember the fact that it can search for any Plains card, not just a basic Plains. It can find Prairie Stream, and that people didn't realize how good that was, because it put them on what they would... When you're playing a token deck, it's more of a mid-rangey control shell, and you play this... Oh, well, if I'm on the draw, it's totally fine, because I'm just going to go turn 2 Knight of the White Orchid, get a 2-color land, and then play a land for the turn, and now I'm ahead of you. It was really good at the time, especially with Sorin. Sorin in any token strategy is just bonkers, but,
Yeah, I love Sorin. I loved playing him in my Abzan deck last year. And I was actually going to then list the vital cards to this deck, which are Hangerback Walker, never heard of that, Gideon, don't know who that guy is, Knight of the White Orchid, and as you mentioned, and then Sorin. So it's an interesting combination, and it seems like it would just work.
Yeah, like you said, since the Pro Tour, I honestly did not remember seeing any token strategies in the Pro Tour, but, I mean, okay, what I did see is Gideon. I saw plenty of Gideon.
There was Bant Tokens, and that was Sam Black's build.
Yes, Retreat to Emiria.
And that was Hangerback, Gideon, Nissa, Retreat to Emiria, Secure the Wastes. It was basically an Anthem Tokens deck.
Yeah.
And it just kind of dropped off the face of the earth and got replaced by Esper Tokens, which is Sorin plus Gideon, rather than Nissa plus Gideon and Landfall and Retreat. I tested it for like a day online, and it just didn't appeal to me at all. And I think Esper Tokens with Sorin plus Gideon just seems better. Being able to ult Gideon and then have Sorin on the field and give everything +2/+1 and lifelink just seems really good.
Yeah, we actually have here in Stephenville, there's a meta. We have a good little group of us that have pretty much we play for competitive meta and everything. One of my buddies, Peyton Haynick, he plays Bant Tokens, and he plays it about as serious as he can get with it. Don't get me wrong, I think the deck is crazy, but I do not enjoy playing it. there's no good removal in the format right now, and what's really frustrating about it is the main board wipe, which is Languish. It's just, that deck does not care about Languish at all.
Oh yeah, all you do is just crack a fetch land.
Well, that, like, he would just, like, he plays, because honestly, it's green-white, and then he splashes blue for 2 main board Dispel, which, by the way, is very good. I will attest to that.
Oh yeah, Dispel is very relevant.
But, the thing about the lands pumping through Languish is not even, you don't even need that. What he would normally do is, if I were to Languish when I was playing Absent Control, I had Languish in my, I think, 3 or 4 in my main board, but he would just go, okay, that's fine, yeah, my board's gone, end of turn, secure the waste for like 12. And I was like, okay, sure. Play a land, you're dead.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's see, next one in the meta is at 5%. It was at 3% when I made the list originally, so I didn't even put it on there. But now it's at 5% with multiple top 8 showings, and that's Green-Red Eldrazi.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot of those in Dallas last Sunday. Oh my gosh, there was just play every rampy card I possibly can, play Shrine of the Forsaken Gods and Sinking of Ugin, and I'm just gonna do stuff with Ugin and Ulamog and stuff, just colorless stuff. That's the deck.
Yeah, it's Hangerback, Walker, Ulamog, and Ugin.
Yeah, that's the deck, colorless stuff.
That's it, it's just those 3, and then you just work your way to them, because once they're out, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
But well, I'm going to talk more in depth about Green-Red Eldrazi in a little bit when we get to the, we'll call it the lightning round section. The next one was Green-White Megamorph that just fell from 9% to 4%. And that was Hangerback, Walker, Gideon, Warden of the First Tree, Den Protector, Death Misraptor, and Nissa. And it's just not being played as much.
Yeah, that's actually the deck I'm playing right now. And I really like its matchups against see, what I think is really cool about the deck is that it's very good against early game strategies and it's very good against mid-range decks, but what it really fails to is the wrong control deck. Like, if you play, the Megamorph list is very good against Absent Control, but its Esper Dragon's matchup is super bad unless, like my sideboard, I have 2 Evolutionary Leap and 2 Mastery of the Unseen. If you don't land those, you're just going to lose.
Seems like you would really need both of those.
And the one thing about it is Ugin, you lose. If Ugin lands, you lose. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's really good.
Like, the only, like I have a buddy, Grant, he plays the same deck I do. And the thing, like he said, after he's been playing the deck for about since it became a thing. And he said out of every time he's played against an Ugin, he's only won once. And it was because he had a Manifest on board to kill him for lethal. And I was like, well, pfft. But yeah, he said if Ugin lands, you're just done.
What seems really good is Master of the Unseen sacking, say, a manifested land for Evolutionary Leap. That just seems really good.
One thing I really like about it is the synergy with Hangerback Walker. Because, like, I'd make tokens. Yeah, you would make just, like, 3 or 4 tokens at maximum, I think, normally. They would swing with their big... I had a moment today where he swung with an Ojutai, and I was like, chump block, and response, sack it to leap, find Wingmate Rock. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, you do that. Okay, next thing, Esper Control has stayed around 4%. Jace, Ugin, and Control cards, 2 of which have Awaken, and that's really it. And it just seems... Control seems shaky right now. It would really need either a solid build that does better than it's currently doing, and I don't know what that would be, or maybe some stronger showings to get more people playing it statistic-wise, or something's missing from it. And it's what you said, that there's not a lot of good removal cards. There's not really good counter magic right now. Dispel's probably the best counter magic right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I said last Sunday, I literally played Esper Dragons rounds 1, 2, and 3. And I went 2-0 against all 3 of them.
Ouch.
Not because of the fact that I was playing Siege Rhino. I mean, it's always a good excuse for things, but the thing is, like, I just can't even begin to explain how good Crackling Doom is against them right now. And I think with that card all over the meta right now, Control just can't be a thing right now. And that's coming from a Control player. I play nothing but Control when I can, but I don't think it can work right now.
And you know I'm a mid-range player, so
yeah. I
find the missing piece, and that's actually, I'm about to get to that, the missing piece. And then there was Bant tokens, which we already talked about, and it was at 3%, and it's now just not being played. And I think it was just a flash in the pan metagame call for the Pro Tour that people try to make work and really isn't going to work anymore. But that's what Sandblack is good at.
Yeah, I agreed the green splash was okay. I believe the Esper splash was a lot better, because green, you got Evolutionary Leap and you got Nissa, because for the landfall triggers. But I do agree that the Esper list probably just took over because of the utility cards like Sorin just make a bigger difference, and especially with all that life gain.
Yeah. Replacing the Anthem landfall stuff with Sorin is just better overall.
And having 4 tokens, 4 1/1s on the field, and then going, okay, oh cool, I drew a land. Okay, I'm gonna play Wooded Foothills, trigger the retreat, fetch, trigger the retreat, make them bigger, and then give them lifelink with Sorin. You're just done. You can't beat that.
Well, that's why I enjoyed playing Sorin and Elspeth together.
Yeah.
And forget about it if I also have Johnny Mentor of Heroes.
Yeah, no. He was really good.
Now they're 3/2s with lifelink. That's nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the lightning round, the prompt questions as it is. And this is where we will get a little bit more in depth about all of this. We've been leading up to this point, and now we get to really get in depth and get to the meat of this. And the first question is, what decks took off in popularity after the Pro Tour, and what decks fell out of favor? What, in your opinion, is the breakout deck since the Pro Tour?
Since the Pro Tour, since Abzan midrange pretty much took over the Pro Tour with that win, but it's kind of been staying pretty steady, and more people are actually starting to play Abzan, like we said earlier. But I think right now, as much as I hate to say it, I promise, I'm not thrilled to say this, but I think one of the biggest decks that's starting to grow in more popularity besides Abzan would be Atarka Red. Because of the fact that its spot removal is a lot worse, but I think the deck just, with the deck playing Abbot of Carol Keep, it's just too good.
Yeah, Abbot is really good. The combo where you just double strike them to death is just really good. Delve is great for a deck that really needs card advantage.
Yeah, I think Atarka Red's probably the one that's just showing up a little bit more, minus the normal metagame, mid-range strategies, but I believe that Atarka Red's actually starting to show up a lot more. And I gotta say this, though, we have an Atarka Red player here in Stephenville, and everybody just, when they find out they're playing him, they're just like, well, okay.
Yeah, and then decks that fell out of favor would have to be Dark Jeskai is still popular. It's just not as huge as it was just a few weeks ago. And that's actually in the next question, which is what cards in Dark Jeskai made it the best or most popular deck, at least, following the Pro Tour. But why is Abzan now seeing play? I'll answer first, actually, because I wrote some notes here. And my opinion doesn't have so much to do with cards as it does with the way that the metagame fluctuates.
Right.
And first off, it might have to do with the top 8 showings that have been going on. At SCG Standard Open Philadelphia this past weekend, Abzan was the only deck in the top 4, with one Dark Jeskai list in the top 8.
Right.
So the top 4 was Abzan, 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 Abzan. Dark Jeskai somewhere in the top 8, down towards the bottom. At Grand Prix Indianapolis the week before, Abzan accounted for 3 out of the top 8, and there was no Dark Jeskai in the top 8.
As to say, I think the real reason that Dark Jeskai is doing really good in terms of being that solid mid-range strategy, but I just don't think the deck can really keep up with Rhinos and Tassigers. I think that's the main reason. And the fact that Anafenza has her second ability to put creature cards in the graveyard, or into exile from the field, it really hurts the J strategies, and then overall, just the synergies, the natural synergies that Abzan has really hurts Dark Jeskai.
Oh yeah, the +1/+1 counters and that kind of thing. And also, she shuts down Dig Through Time.
Right.
Let's see, continuing with what I wrote down. For contrast, Grand Prix Quebec City in late October saw 4 Dark Jeskai lists in the top 8, including both of the final deck lists in the final match. And there was only one Abzan list. And that was during the height of its popularity. I'm sure at that point, some of the cards skyrocketed in price, and then over the past few weeks have just been plummeting, whereas Siege Rhino has always been somewhat affordable. Even at its highest, it was, $9?
Yeah.
So kind of a staple, but not as heavily played as some other cards in the format, and that's actually the next question, but I'll let you weigh in a little bit on Dark Jeskai and Abzan first if you had any more thoughts on that.
I think the real, like you said, Abzan's just starting to become a little more prominent than Dark Jeskai, and I think one of the biggest decks, the cards in Abzan that really takes a toll on Dark Jeskai is Gideon, and that's just because red and the white's really only good instant speed removal for Gideon is Stasis Snare, and nobody really likes that card as much as they love to say it's good or whatever. I can't stand the card. No one really wants... There's not really any great burn spells for Gideon right now, especially not instant speed. There's like none. And a lot of decks are starting to play Fiery Impulse, which Gideon really doesn't care about. Last I checked, I think the really good, the two burn spells right now that can actually even touch Gideon that have even been played in the Dark Jeskai list are, minus Crackling Doom, of course. Crackling Doom, I guess, technically counts as a burn spell. But some are playing Exquisite Firecraft, and Wild Slash is actually a valid option as well. Although that both decks play Gideon, I believe that Abzan just plays it better.
Yeah, Abzan has more synergy with Gideon.
Yeah.
Being able to make a 2/2 Knight and immediately, I don't know, Abzan Charm and make him a 4/4 just seems really good.
Yeah. If you're trying to play aggressive. And I think Dark Jeskai's main disadvantage to Abzan is Den Protector.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Because when Dark Jeskai has to answer something so many times, and Den Protector just keeps the threats coming.
So moving on to the next question, according to MTG Top 8, which aggregates data from Moto dailies and paper tournaments combined, Hangerback Walker is in roughly half the deck lists that have been registered in Battle for Zendikar Standard. Half. No exaggeration.
What better 2-drop is there than Den Protector besides Jace? I mean...
Really can't answer that. There isn't. Gideon is at 40%, Den Protector 37%, and Jace at 30%. So the question is, what does it say about Battle for Zendikar Standard when such a small amount of cards dominate the format? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Or is it just part of the game?
It, honestly, is just kind of part of the game. Like, when a card's good, people are going to play it. And when there's no really other better option, they're just going to pick what's best to a default. And defaulting to Hangerback Walker, especially with him being able to fit in any deck that plays 2 mana, it just seems good.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that's happened this year. And actually, the answer I wrote down was it all comes down to whether there aren't enough closers in the format, or whether the issue is really just that Hangerback Walker, Gideon, Den Protector, and Jace are just too powerful for anybody to feel safe deviating from them. Last year, you had Polykranos running around. You had Whisperwood Elemental. He was king for a while.
Yeah.
And you had all these different cards, Elspeth, so many other cards that were closers that you could sort of brew and mess around with different combinations of cards. There was the deck that you played against at the Star City games this past summer that was all the different cards you could think of for Manifest.
Yeah, the Secret Plans deck.
Yeah, and it's just that right now, either there's just not enough closers in the format, so they have to rely on Hangerback Walker and Gideon and Den Protector, or those 4 cards, Hangerback, Gideon, Den Protector, and Jace, are just so powerful that if you deviate from them, you run the risk of losing.
Right. And I was one of those people who was not really fond of Hangerback Walker. Like, I knew how good he was, but I didn't necessarily thought he was like as good as I pictured him to be. And as soon as I started playing Megamorph and I got my playset, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna try it. You know, I'm gonna be like everyone else, and I'm glad I did, because I probably will not play another deck without him until he rotates out. Like, I think he's that good.
Speaking of Hangerback Walker, the final question is, does the current meta have any weaknesses? Is there an archetype that could exploit this weakness? Now, before you answer, I want it known that I made a metagame call in the answer I prepared 2 weeks ago in the Google Doc that came true. But I want to let you answer first.
I think the real main kind of like weakness for the meta right now is just removal. Removal right now is just so bad, and if Ruinous Path was instant speed, I think honestly no one would be complaining as much, but really the main instant speed removal that's even seeing played right now is Crackling Doom, Murderous Cut, yeah. Dramoka's Command, and what's that one card?
Abzan Charm?
Abzan Charm, thank you. But my main point about it is that it's just the removal is really bad. Honestly, I feel like the meta would get a lot better, and call me crazy, but I think it'd be crazy if they would just reprint Doomblade. And that,
why the heck not?
Because not a lot of because 90% of the time that they've printed Doomblade was there were not a lot of black decks, except the last time because Doom Play was in Mono Black Devotion, and that was everywhere. And nobody thought it was good. They decided in because they're not playing black. I guess this card's good.
Yeah, Ultimate Price saw more play in Mono Black Devotion, which I also played.
Yeah, and I like the Ultimate Price too. Like it's an instant speed removal right now, but there's too many multicolor / not.
Yeah, there's too much Hangerback Walker.
My first cut of Abzan Control was just okay. Well, I'm gonna run 2 because it was a Logan Mize list, and I was like, okay, that seems all right. And I can't tell you how many times I stared down turn 2 Hangerback Walker with it, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, it's value. I want to now read the answer I wrote down 2 weeks ago. This is what I wrote about weaknesses in the meta. As long as you can Gideon Anthem into Hangerback tokens, I don't see anything changing anytime soon. That's the first thing I wrote. Even aggro has a hard time with this and has to rely on a double strike combo to be viable. Possibly a ramp deck, I wrote. Such as the mono-green ramp deck that's been somewhat popular online. It wasn't really on the radar. It was like at 2% on Goldfish, but it was up there like 5 to 6% online. Would have potential after Oath of Gatewatch introduces more Eldrazi, but it would have to have a Tron-like prison aspect to it, or it would lose to the Gideon Hangerback Onslaught.
I agree with that.
Here we are 2 weeks after I wrote that, and the deck is now at, where is it at? It's at 5% now with multiple top 8 showings.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that when I was preparing for the episode this week, and I went online and I tested the ramp deck, basically standard Tron, and I gotta say, that deck is amazing. And it comes down to all the things we've been saying. Counter magic is horrible right now. Removal is horrible right now. If you want to control, you've got to be playing burn. And Ulamog does not care about your burn spells.
Crater's Claws for 10, question mark?
I guess if I allow you to have enough land to do that. So, it's really good. I want to share some stories about my testing this week. Let's see, the first day I tested, I was playing against a guy who was doing enchantment deck with Starfield of Nyx, and he played a lot of pacifism.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was on the ropes at this point in the game. It was game 2, I had lost game 1, and things weren't looking good. I had nothing on board because everything had been exiled with auras. I think he had just played a quarantine field, and all I had, it was in hand, I had Hangerback Walker, and I had the land that lets me search my library for something after I play something with converted mana cost 7 or higher. Ugin's Sanctum?
Sanctum of Ugin.
Sanctum of Ugin, that's it. And then in my graveyard, I had a few actual Ugins because he also had the combo going with Sphinx's Tutelage and Monastery Siege. So I had some Ugins in my graveyard, and I had Haven of the Spirit Dragon, and I was thinking to myself, I have enough mana to play my Hangerback Walker for X equals 3, and I still have enough mana left over, exactly enough, to put Ugin in hand and play it next turn. I looked at the board status, and I did some math, and I canceled the stack really quick, and then played it for X equals 4, searched up my Eldrazi, new Lamog, next turn played it, and decimated his board of his 2 most important enchantments, his combo. Next turn I had enough mana to bring Ugin into my hand and play it,
Ugh.
and I finished off what he had left, including the pacifism he had just put on new Lamog, and then he conceded the match.
Dang.
And I had a similar incident today. Earlier today, I was playing against a deck that was basically like Scions, Eldrazi Scions, Ramp, and exiling my graveyard with Ingest. And Every Hangerback Walker I played was getting exiled with the card where you reveal a creature, and if it's smaller than the creature you reveal, then it dies or whatever, you exile it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were exiling my Hangerback Walker, so I couldn't get tokens off of it. But ultimately, they weren't doing much. Like, they were attacking for like 3 a turn or 2 a turn because their Eldrazi were so small, because it was the ones that make tokens, or they have Ingest or some other effect, and so you get your effect and then it's a tiny little Eldrazi after that. So I played Ugin, and I had an oops moment because I'd been so busy today. I wasn't really thinking about Magic today. I was grading exams and trying to get this podcast put together. So I played Ugin and I minused on it. Everything had devoid, so it didn't hit anything. And I was like, oops, okay, well, Ugin's at 4. He swings for 4 next turn and kills Ugin. So worst case scenario, I have to recast it because I have one in hand. He didn't attack it. He attacked me. So I was like, okay. I had a hanger back out, and he played the Eldrazi that makes 3 Scions. So then he ramped into exiling Hangerback Walker again. And so now he's got a 4-5 on board, so I'm like, well, Ugin can't kill that. I top deck an Ulamog. So the Ulamog takes care of the 4-5, or the 5-4, whatever it was, and also takes care of another threat. And then Ugin lightning bolts the other one, and then the game's pretty much over, so he quits the match. And it's really good, and I can't wait to see what Oath of the Gatewatch has for this deck, because I really feel like this is a good metagame call. And ultimately, the only bad matchup that it has is really, I guess, either an instant kill with Double Strike off of a Tarka Red, or any Crackling Doom. It just seems incredible against Siege Rhino.
Yeah. Just playing bigger things than Siege Rhino is always very good than Siege Rhino.
And exiling Siege Rhino seems good too. Dropping an Ugin and then minusing, whatever it needs to minus and exiling everything, because they all have colors except for Hangerback, which, I can just hit with Nulamog, so, what's the big deal, right?
It's like, have fun Dim Protectoring that Rhino back. Oh, you can't. Oops.
Yeah, I'll just play a 4-4 Hangerback Walker, so have fun with that. So yeah, it's just, that's my metagame call. And with that, I think maybe it's time that we say goodbye. So TJ, what social media can people find you at if they want to contact you about Magic stuff?
I'm always available for Magic stuff. You can contact me on Facebook, tj.love777. My email, tigerjoe2678@gmail.com. You can always message me for Metagame, Standard, Modern, Insight, and even if you just want to talk about Shadows over Innistrad hype, which the hype is real for me right now. I'm totally down for it.
And then you can find me a lot of places. As I said, I'm the executive producer of this little podcast, as well as Player 4 Podcast, which this is under the Player 4 umbrella. So you can find me on YouTube under the account called J Dunlap MTG. J Dunlap MTG. That's where you'll see a lot of online gameplay. I mostly just post videos of myself playing Lantern Control for Modern, but I might start putting some Ulamog Ugin play on there as well, because that seems fun. And then you can find me on Facebook if you're in the Magic the Gathering group on Facebook. I'm always posting articles that I'm writing. And you can always contact Player 4 Podcast and Draw 4 Podcast by emailing us at player4podcast@gmail.com. Find us on YouTube at youtube.com/c/player4podcast. You can find Draw 4 Podcast on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/draw-4-podcast. On Twitter, you can find us at Player 4 Podcast, and you can also find us on iTunes by searching for Draw 4 Podcast. Something about 4 Podcast. I'm not sure. This has been Draw 4 Podcast. Until next time, we wish you good fortune, and may you draw well.